So you want to buy a prison. Not rob one, not escape from one, buy one. And honestly, that's not as crazy as it sounds. Because right now, somewhere in America, a prison is sitting empty. Gates rusted, cells abandoned, lights off. And someone, maybe a hedge fund, maybe a private equity firm, maybe just a guy with too much money and a weird idea, is writing a check for it. This is a real industry, a massive one. And once you understand how the money actually works inside these walls, you'll never look at the criminal justice system the same way again. Let's break it down. First, can you even buy a prison? Yes, absolutely yes. Prisons get sold all the time. State governments shut down facilities, old federal lockups get decommissioned, county jails go up for auction when budgets collapse. And when that happens, buyers show up. Some want to convert them, turn them into hotels, offices, film sets, even breweries. Yes, that's happened. But some buyers want to run them as prisons for profit. That's where it gets interesting. That's where it gets complicated. And that's where the real money and the real controversy lives. So let's talk numbers. The private prison industry in America is worth over $8 billion a year. Two companies, CoreCivic and GEO Group, control most of it. Both publicly traded, both paying dividends to shareholders, both literally profiting from incarceration. Here's how the basic model works. A government, federal, state, or local, doesn't want to manage a prison themselves. Too expensive, too much staff, too much paperwork, so they contract out to a private company. That company runs the facility, provides the guards, the beds, the food, the programs, and in return, they get paid per inmate, per day. It's called a per diem rate. And depending on the contract and location, that can range anywhere from $35 to $120+ per prisoner per day. You do the math. A facility holding 1,500 inmates at $65 a day, that's almost $36 million a year in revenue, just from one prison. Now subtract operating costs, staff salaries, food, utilities, maintenance, and you're looking at margins somewhere between 8% and 15% on a well-run facility. Not insane margins, but stable, predictable, and backed by government contracts. But wait, what does it actually cost to buy a prison? That depends massively on size, condition, and location. Smaller, older county jails? You might pick one up for $1 to $5 million. Some have sold for even less at state auctions. A mid-sized state correctional facility, 500 to 1,000 beds, could run you $20 to $80 million, depending on how modern the infrastructure is. A large, purpose-built private prison? We're talking $100 million to $300 million to build from scratch. That's what CoreCivic and GEO Group do. They don't just buy, they build, then lease back to governments under 20-year contracts. And here's the kicker. Some of those contracts have occupancy guarantees. Governments promise to keep the prison at least 80% or 90% full, or pay the difference anyway. Let that sink in for a second. The government is legally required to either send enough people to prison or write a check to a private company regardless. That's not a typo. That's an actual clause in actual contracts, and it tells you everything you need to know about the incentive structure here. Now, let's talk about what you're actually buying. Because a prison isn't just walls and bars. It's a bundle of assets and liabilities that most people don't think about. You're buying real estate, usually a massive footprint, hundreds of acres in many cases. That land has value far beyond its current use, especially as rural towns decline and the prison becomes the biggest employer around. You're buying infrastructure, power systems, water, HVAC, security tech. Some of it modern, some of it ancient and falling apart. You're buying labor obligations. Guards need salaries, benefits, unions sometimes. that's your biggest ongoing cost. Labor eats up roughly 60 to 70% of operating expenses in most facilities. And you're buying regulatory exposure. Because running a prison means dealing with federal oversight, state inspections, lawsuits, civil rights investigations, and the ever-present possibility that a viral news story turns your facility into a national scandal overnight. That last part, that's the risk nobody in the pitch deck talks about.
Here's what the critics will tell you, and they're not entirely wrong. Private prisons have a profit motive, to keep costs down, and sometimes that means fewer programs, worse food, less mental health support, higher recidivism. Multiple studies have questioned whether private prisons actually save governments money long term, and the savings often look better on paper than they do in reality. There's also the philosophical problem. Should anyone be making money off incarceration? Does that create perverse incentives to lobby for tougher sentencing laws, to keep people locked up longer than necessary? In 2016, the Obama administration directed the Justice Department to phase out private federal prisons. In 2021, Biden signed an executive order to the same effect. But here's what happened. The contracts didn't just disappear. States still use private facilities. ICE detention centers, which are run by the same companies, actually expanded. And the federal policy kept flipping with each new administration. Because the government is, at the end of the day, addicted to the convenience of outsourcing this problem. So what are your actual options as a buyer? Option 1, convert it. Buy a decommissioned facility and repurpose it. This is where the creative money has gone lately. Old jails becoming boutique hotels in Europe and Canada, prisons becoming film locations, even residential lofts in some cases. The conversion costs are real, but the real estate upside can be massive if you're in the right location. Option 2, operate it. Partner with or become a private corrections operator. Bid on government contracts, hire staff, run the facility, collect the per diem. You'll need deep pockets, serious regulatory experience, and a very thick skin for public scrutiny. Option 3, sell the land. Buy the property at auction. Sit on the land, rezone it, sell it to a developer.
Sell the
Never
land.
deal with a single inmate. Sometimes the most boring play is the most profitable one.
Here's the part nobody tells you up front. The prison business isn't really about punishment. It's about contracts. It's about real estate. It's about government relationships. It's about who controls access to the most captive customer base on the planet. People who literally cannot leave. That's a brutal way to think about it, but that's the economics. And as long as mass incarceration remains a feature of American policy, not a bug, there will be money flowing through these walls. Whether that's a good investment or a moral minefield, that's for you to decide. But now you know exactly what you're getting into. So, do you still want to buy a prison? If you are a football lover and want to buy a football club, then watch this video. Subscribe.